Aloha, everyone. Welcome to the January 2025 meeting of the Waikiki Neighborhood Board. And our first speaker will be from the Honolulu Fire Department. And as you come up, sir, I would like to ask for a moment of silence for firefighter Jeffrey Filla, who sacrificed his life to help us protect our community. So if you'd all join me in a moment of silence, I would appreciate it. Thank you. Lisa might like to make a presentation.
The Waikiki Board and the Waikiki community. We'd like to share in and let you know that we're honoring Jeffrey as well with you guys, and we're grieving with you. So this is just a little something to take back to the fire station. Guys, appreciate the work you guys do.
Well, thank you to the Waikiki community as well as the neighborhood board for this gift honoring our fallen firefighter Jeff Fiala. Yeah, we're all familiar with that. The perishing of fire on January 6th, just barely over a week ago. So yeah, the department in general is basically mourning and at this time preparing services for him, which we expect is going to be attended by a lot of people. Anyway, thank you very much to the board and to the Waikiki community. My name is Lee Marquez. I'm the captain of Ladder 7 here at Waikiki. And I am, first of all, in addition to, I guess, not the best of news, but I'd like to say a Happy New Year to everybody as we start 2025. And let's hopefully we all move forward and still create a great 2025. It's a rough start right now, but there's a lot to go. So I'm here to present our statistics as given to me by our CRO office for the statistics for the last month of the year, December 2024. They go as follows. As far as fires are concerned, we reported no structure fires in the Waikiki area. No brush fires. There was one fire, which I don't have the information in regard to that. 15 activated alarm calls, which involve no fires. Generally, those come in as false alarms. As far as emergencies, including medical emergencies, we had 171. There was one motor vehicle collision involving a pedestrian, 5 motor vehicle collisions. There were no mountain rescues in our area, 1 ocean rescue, and no hazardous materials incidents. Now, along with the statistics, our CRO office also gives me a monthly, what do you call it, a fire safety tip. In this case, it involves the appliance and electrical safety. They're saying to minimize electrical fire risk in your home with these safety tips. Electrical work in your places should be done by a qualified electrician. Check for your electrical cords. If they are cracked or damaged, replace them. Do not overload wall outlets or power strips, and use certified power strips that meet safety standards. Extension cords should not be used as permanent wiring. I think that's generally one we normally see. And follow the manufacturer's instructions for all appliances. And finally, if you need more information for safety tips, you can visit fire.honolulu.gov. And that concludes my portion of our meeting here this evening.
Members of the audience, do you have questions for the Honolulu Fire Department?
Everybody, I appreciate the gift again. This affects the department wide. He's a young man and really new to our department. We had a year and a half in, recently married, and, just starting his career. So it does take a hit for us. We're all, new at something one at a time, and another. We have inherent dangers, but of course we never want to see it, of course. And then I just want to, again, thank you for the gift and appreciate that.
Thank you, Captain. Appreciate it.
You guys have a great evening, okay? Let's make it a better 2025.
Next on our agenda, we have the Honolulu Fire Department, Police Department, I'm sorry.
Good evening, I'm Lieutenant Angela Kitagawa. I am new to District 6, Waikiki. I work night watch currently. I'll go over the previous and this month's statistics for each category that I have here. For robberies, this month we had 2. Previously, we had 7. Burglary, this month we are at 10. Previous month, we are at 7. In the theft category, this month we had 98, where previously we had 179. For UAMV, this month we had 14. Previous month we had 29. Assaults, we had 46 this month. Previous month we had 35. Sex crimes, this month we had 2. Previously we had 5. For bikes, skateboards on sidewalks, this month we had 0. Previous month we had 17. In the area of speeding, we had 21 citations, whereas previous month we had 7. For parking, we had this month 2 warnings and 135 citations. Previous month, we had 2 warnings and 112 citations. For loud muffler prohibited noise, this month we had 0, where previously we had 1. For park closures, this month we had 102 citations, 13 arrests, where previously we had 92 citations and 11 arrests. Total calls for service this month as an estimate were 4,320. Previously, it was at 3,114. Thank you.
We have questions from the audience for the Honolulu Police Department. Go ahead, Jeff. Please use the microphone.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to HPD for being here tonight. I'm kind of astounded, that, your report that I think there were no citations at all for vehicles riding on the sidewalks, when every day in Waikiki, I see cyclists, skateboarders, even mopeds just driving every which way on the sidewalks. And I think that, one of my big things here at the community is we need 24/7, 365 foot patrols all through Waikiki, just like the department does in Chinatown. And that just goes to show for me that we just need that here. Please relay to your senior leadership that we, the community, need more involved community policing. We want an HPD presence on the ground being proactive. Please, I'm begging you, foot patrols 24/7, 365. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, the audience has had theirs. Go ahead.
Hello, officer. Thank you for attending tonight. It's been a couple of months. I forget the 2 officers who told us that they would be attending our meetings regularly, but neither one of you are them. Is there been a change in the representation of HPD at our board meetings?
I'm not familiar with that. Just as I said, I'm new to this district from just within a couple of months, so I must have missed that, but I can look into who that was. You don't have the names or?
Lieutenant Keogh?
Oh, Lieutenant Keogh is off on leave right now.
Okay. It's kind of a broken record here at the neighborhood board. We keep getting new officers who attend. We address our concerns with those officers, and then we don't ever see them again. We're replaced with new officers representing HPD at the board, and just nothing ever gets done. As Jacob Wencheck just mentioned, this board has been calling for active patrol, foot patrol in Waikiki for longer than I've been on the board. And of course, my big gripe is the loud muffler noises. I don't know at what point HPD really cares to hear from us, because we continue to tell HPD what our concerns are as a neighborhood, and there's literally no response or redress to our concerns. None. And to have zero loud muffler enforcements when I don't think there's been a meeting in the last 2 years where that has not been an issue that's been raised by the community and the board, and there's been no change. I just, not that I expect that 2 new officers who are visiting us for the first time will be able to make a difference, but I just wonder at what point will there be a difference? And at this point, I'm wondering if there will ever be a difference made by this board. What point is there for us to meet as a neighborhood and talk to you as HPD if literally we're talking to a wall? That's how I feel. I would really like to see some changes in 2025. I am very bleak in my optimism. You can respond, but we've heard every response there is, and it's just never adequate. But that is the way it is. And
Okay, well, this is like you said, this is the first time I'm hearing that. However, I will look into that, and I believe I will be at the next one, so I can look into the past concerns and see where we went from there, okay? Thank you.
Sarah.
First, I'd like to welcome you to Waikiki. Thank you for joining us. Last year, HPD was down over 400 officers. Do you know what the number stands? Or is it getting closer to?
It's pretty much the same. My background actually is from training. So I see that perspective on recruits coming in and pushing out. The numbers are still similar to how we were as of last year.
Because I know at one point we did have 30 officers on bike. So HPD does respond and they do put things in order. But when they're down 400 officers, which is something we need to talk to the mayor and our Honolulu reps, like, why are we down 400 officers still? Why is it that Honolulu is not recruiting as well as other cities, and they're actually recruiting our officers away to the mainland? So, but once again, welcome to Waikiki.
Thank you. And I do know it's a nationwide issue about recruitment and stuff. So we are doing our best. I know our human resources and those departments are doing their best to get people on board. So I see your concern. Thank you.
Any other questions for the Honolulu Police Department? I see none. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Happy New Year.
Dominic, welcome back. From the Board of Water Supply, Dominic Diaz.
Good evening, Dominic Diaz with the Honolulu Board of Water Supply. Looking back at last month, actually into November as well, no main breaks in the Waikiki area. We currently do not have any ongoing construction activities. So that said, I just want to talk really quick about a program we have. It's called Water Wisdom. This is a program that provides resources and guidance on doing your own internal audit of your home water system to check for leaks, make sure you're not wasting water, which is our primary concern. I think I tried to hit it every month last year. I'm going to ask you again every month, please conserve water, be mindful how you use it. So if you go to our website, borderwatersupply.com/water wisdom, there's links and resources there on doing water audits. And there's information for residential homeowners as well as property managers. So if you are part of a condominium association, property managers as well, there's some guidance and resources there about how you might go ahead and do some internal auditing. We have online programs now whereby you can keep track of your water usage. So if you see a big spike, that might indicate a leak or a break somewhere on site and give you the opportunity to respond in a more timely fashion, which will save you money, save everybody water. Again, that's Water Wisdom. So www.boardofwatersupply.com/water wisdom. And at this time, I'd be happy to take any questions on behalf of the Board of Water Supply.
Members of the audience, any questions for the Board of Water Supply? Board members, have you got anything that is critical or any questions for the Board of Water Supply? Dominic, I guess the only question I've got is, in view of all the casualties in Los Angeles, does Board of Water Supply or some other agency actually check the fire hydrants, or is that someone else's job?
Yeah, we do hydrant testing. We do a lot of system checks, pressure checks throughout the system, which would indicate issues that might arise with the hydrant. We have valve maintenance programs whereby crews go out and exercise valves to make sure that when we need to use them, they'll be operating. With regard to wildfires, we're partnered with a lot of other government and private agencies right now looking at wildfire mitigation projects and initiatives. We're currently doing a risk assessment for the Board of Water, which is mandated by the EPA. And this year we're adding wildfire, assessment and mitigation to our efforts there. So we have been, it's not something that's been spawned by this LA events. We've been cognizant of the issues around wildfires for a while. Hawaii Electric has taken some steps in their operations with their shutdown, public safety, public shutdown program. So we're trying to work together and make sure that we're best situated to handle these events should they arise. And I'd be happy to report back, as we get through this. It's probably upward of a year to go through this assessment project, but I'd be happy to report back at some time on what we've found out and what we've done.
Appreciate it, Greg.
Thank you. On the same note, is there a protocol for when multiple fire hydrants are opened at the same time? This is a part of the problem that happened in LA. There's obviously a pressure decrease, drastic pressure if there's quite a few, but is there any protocol for mitigating that?
Not necessarily, it's sort of at that point, it's, in the moment, it's a user understanding of the system liability. I'm not sure there was ever going to be enough water to handle the fires at the level they were at. Staging closures of more hydrants to avoid running out as quickly would not have probably made a dent in terms of the total available source. It's hard to just plan for that level of an event to be prepared. But so, that's why we're partnering with other agencies looking at opportunities, in dry areas out on the west side. We're looking at partnering and working to create fire breaks and things that would just naturally help fight or prevent the spread of such a widespread fire in this kind of event. So aside from the water being one aspect, we're looking at all, opportunities to help mitigate these threats.
Okay, thank you. And I guess if we eventually get a fire marshal, which is still delayed, that's something that I think should be on their perusal, because there should be data on that for how many fire hydrants in different areas can be open simultaneously, and what is the draw and things like that.
Yeah, the systems are designed to provide a certain level of flow for a certain duration of time, and those are based on national designs on standards. There are standards for fire flow depending on the zoning. The system should be able to flow X amount of gallons per minute for so many hours, and those are set, and that's how the system is designed. Something like the amount of water needed for fires on this scale just exceed anything you could develop as a design standard without, endless reservoirs and unlimited pipe sizes. But yeah, there's a lot of agencies that are now very much involved in looking at the threats of wildfires and trying to help and work together to mitigate these issues.
Thank you, Dominic.
Yeah, I just wanted to know really quick. I was in some cool meetings recently. As residents of Waikiki, there's a initiative called Adapt Waikiki 2050. If anyone's interested in some leisure reading, it's looking at Waikiki out to 2050 and beyond. Climate change issues, So there's a website, DPP has some information on their website. There's some public engagement along the way, so opportunities to provide input if anyone's looking for something interesting to read up on. Adapt Waikiki 2050. And if you just Google that, it'll lead you to, I believe DPP has it up on their website.
I'm trying to get them to a meeting to do a presentation.
Yeah, it's still a little early. It's in the early stages. So, but yeah, it would be great to come out to Waikiki, and they've done a lot of great work, a lot of research, a lot of legwork. So
I'm hoping it's a complete public meeting that goes on for about 2 hours. Because when I first looked at that project, I said in 10 minutes, we'll just get a smattering of what it's all about. But anyway, thank you for being
Okay,
with us
thank you.
tonight. At this time, we go to our citizens' concerns that aren't on the agenda. Tim Gary, did you have something tonight?
Yeah, good evening, everybody. I just wanted to bring attention to our community in conversations I had with Anton Krucky, who's in charge of housing and oversees homeless program. The city plans on putting a Hono camp near the library, in between the library and the Alawai golf course. And I asked them if they were going to address it with us, the community. And they pretty much said no, that they didn't have to, and they were just going to do it. So this is a camp. They had them in various places. They've had them in Sand Island. I was talking to Mr. Finley. They had him near his brother-in-law's over on Pensacola, I believe.
Eisenberg. the
Eisenberg.
Old Stadium Park.
So I have a problem with that. Number one, that they don't come to us and ask us what our opinion is, number two. And I'm a little ambiguous on whether I want to support it or not. Anton Krucky made a serious argument, I believe I'm accurate, in that he said 57% of the people that come in to the Hono camp are placed up with short-term housing and or services, which I don't know if I believe 57%. But then I had a conversation with all our patrol officers in Waikiki, and I presented it to them. And I asked them what their opinion was. And 100% of them were against it. This is our local police that patrol, not the lieutenants or captains. So I wanted to bring it to everybody's attention, see what everybody feels. If they are successful in placing 57%, that might be a good thing. But many of the police officers says that they are staffed by HPD at the site, the Hono site. But one of the officers said to me, two of the officers said to me that these are placed with special duty officers that never want to write a report, never want to arrest anybody. So they're there collecting money and making sure that nobody stabs anybody, I guess. But both of those officers always said that this is going to be a central location for them where they can stay there, but then go out, and some of them commit crimes and go back to their little hangout that we're paying for with taxpayer dollars. So I want everybody to decide for themselves. Also, it's going to be right on Kapahulu. So I'll take 10 seconds. On Kapahulu, that's the gateway to Waikiki. I don't think that's a good look for our tourists to come into and having to see a homeless camp sponsored by the city on their way to their vacations. Thank you for their attention.
Yes. Yes, sir. John, sorry.
Hi, everybody. John Dutzman on the same kind of topic. You might have seen the headlines 2 days ago in the Star Advertiser and the editorial today. That editorial kind of copied my email that I sent out to all of the stakeholders, leaders. This year, they decided that they're not going to count the homeless people living on the streets. How it works is the federal government, HUD, requires that they do a homeless count in each community every 2 years. We've been doing a count since 2012 of both people in shelters and people on the street. This year, they decided not to count the people on the street. So my immediate email to everybody in charge, all the way down the totem pole, was, how can you not count the people in the street? The people in the street are the people that the community sees. They're the ones who are chronically addicted, chronically mentally ill, involved in antisocial criminal behavior, very, very tough things to lick, but they don't want to count that anymore. So I got a lot of different responses. I'm not going to go into them. Some of them sound somewhat legitimate, but I just think it's a horrible political move. If this is one of our top priorities in this community, certainly in Waikiki, to give the illusion that, we're not going to count these guys this year. And it leaves to speculation that the count's probably up or the same, which I think it is, and they don't want to look bad. That's not what they're saying, but anyway, thank you.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hello, thank you. My name is Ben. I'm here with my colleagues. We represent some businesses at the Seaside Commercial Center, which is 334 Seaside Avenue. Lately, we've been plagued by some exhaust vents coming out of the Waikiki Shopping Plaza. They've made two new businesses there, Big Island Burger and EO Waikiki Korean Barbecue Restaurant. Now, these exhaust vents, they're supposed to go up, but these exhaust vents actually face sideways towards our building. So there's a cloud of smoke that comes into our lobby. It goes into our hallways, into our units. I do massage, but I'm losing business because it smells like smoke in my studio. The smoke it's gray, it's thick, it feels heavy, it's oily. We've contacted the Department of Health. We've stressed our thoughts, complaints, because it is a health issue. We're just our hands are up in the air. We need help. That's about it. If you need videos, a lot. It's plaguing the street. There should be other complaints as well from other businesses on the street. And that's about it. Thank you very much for your time.
Did the Department of Health respond to you? So they didn't come down and do anything?
Not to my knowledge. They said they forwarded my email to they forwarded my email to the AC ventilation section, whatever that is.
I'm sorry, Catherine has an idea about this. We've dealt with this several times.
Yeah, I've dealt with the same problem because I live in between Denny's and the Queen Kapiolani. And I would say, please keep continuing to complain. But they are required to have what's called a scrubber in their system, in their ventilation system. And when the scrubber needs to be replaced, we get black oil and smoke into our condo. So you might want to inquire about the scrubber. Seems to be the system that will clean the air for you.
I see. Our main concern is the direction of where the ventilation faces. It should be up, but it's sideways.
Greg?
Thank you, Chair. I actually invited Ben this evening to come. I witnessed this and was stunned because there was a business that we went into for that building. And as soon as I went into the building, it was such a rancid, disgusting smell. I was like, where's that coming from? And then when we could see it, and we saw it's literally the parking garage right across the street. It's a small, narrow street. So you've got an exhaust vent. This is brand new, by the way. So this is not something that was existing. So it's coming directly out of the garage on the first floor, right onto the sidewalk and blowing directly into the open area of their lobby, and then going in and into the elevator. The elevator is right there and goes up into the building. I've never seen anything like that. I thought that they had to put stack vents like up above. And clearly, if there's a scrubber in there, it's not scrubbing much because you can see, I have videos of it. You can see the smoke coming out. So it's pretty serious.
Rick Eggett, I see you sitting there. Could you get the address of this and pass it on to Trevor and whoever at the city? Okay. Okay. Okay, thank you for letting us know. We appreciate it. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Catherine Lee. I sit on the board at Lily Oglani Gardens, and there's been some question and some inquiry about the proposed development project of this Waikiki Community Center and this whole area. Could you just give us an update and tell us what's going on with that? Thank you very much.
We had that October, wasn't it? That's in our minutes, isn't it? The presentation. Go to our website and that presentation should be there. It was on the development of this whole area. Yeah, it's community center. Okay, it's on our drive. Before you leave, could you see Anson, and he can give you exactly how to get there? Yeah. Okay, I'm waiting until okay, did you have something on that?
I did.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I was at that meeting when they gave the presentation, and my understanding from that meeting was that it was just in the very planning stages, the very beginning, and nothing was determined or had been decided. But there's a lot of other information, like a realtor said they had to disclose that 140 unit low-income building was being built here. And it seems like they've made a lot of progress since they originally addressed the board. And I'm wondering how we can find out what the status is.
Rick, you're on the board over here, aren't you? Could you ask Catherine to schedule a meeting with us again? So again, I don't know if you could hear them, but this is in the discussion area. It is not in any further down the road, but we'll ask them to come back. This is their house, and we'll ask them to come back and give us an update if there's an update. If not, it's on our drive, what was presented that night. So I encourage everybody to go to there and take a quick look. Okay. Sure. Happy to bring it back. Sure. Let me make a note of that. Anybody else in the audience? Yes, sir.
Aloha. 2 months ago, I spoke of the concern about excessive noise caused by garbage trucks operating in the early morning hours between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Today, I am disheartened to report that not only has there been no improvement, but the situation has worsened. Despite repeated efforts to address this issue, including an email sent to the mayor's managing director just before the holidays titled, "All I Want for Christmas is a Peaceful Night of Sleep," there has been no response. Meanwhile, the noise disturbances have become more frequent and disruptive. Just last week, I was awakened at 2:45 a.m., again at 3:30 a.m., and yet again at 5:15 a.m. by the clatter of garbage trucks and dumpsters, all in the same night. It's clear that residents' concerns are being ignored while we continue to endure sleepless nights negatively impacting our health and quality of life. This issue is truly a priority. Why hasn't progress been made? Why are private haulers allowed to dictate the terms while residents suffer the consequences? We need enforceable legislation to establish quiet hours and hold haulers accountable. In the meantime, haulers must take responsibility by investing in quieter equipment, coordinating their schedules to reduce disruptions and operate safely, or contributing financially to programs that help residents install double or triple pane windows to block out the noise that they're creating. The time for inaction is over. With the start of a new year, let us commit to ensuring this issue does not drag on. I respectfully request the support of this board and our government officials to make this a priority. Mahalo.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, in response to that comment, noise is a problem in Waikiki, whether it's dump trucks, loud mufflers, fireworks, you name it. Noise is a concern of everybody in this room and on this board. As we heard with the last presenter, you know, he was encouraged to complain daily to the Department of Health. And I know that people have been complaining daily about the trash trucks. People have been complaining daily about the loud mufflers, but there's been nothing. There's been no reaction to any of it. So, you know, it goes back to my comment, at what point does this board serve a purpose? You know, I would tell you, at least in response to the trash trucks, I've seen considerable efforts to try to address it. You know, the senator was involved. I think state representative was involved. There was meetings with city council. And when the cards all fell, it was like, well, we can't do anything about any of it, you know, particularly the trash trucks. And I know there was concerns about traffic during the day of the trash trucks, but you know, there's an excuse for everything. Always and forever, since I've been on this board, there's an excuse. And there's never any attention to the concerns of noise that have been expressed over and over and over and over again by this board. So I feel with you. You know, I continue to keep complaining as we've done here, as everybody's encouraged to do. But you know, at what point, you know, do we just have to say, I guess I'm going to spend tens of thousands of dollars to get double pane windows, because just no one cares about really the concerns of this community. So I feel for you. I'm glad you're coming. I know you're familiar with what Carlito has been coming to this board for years and made so much more noise than the noise that you guys are just beginning to make in your first two appearances here. But, you know, I sympathize for you, but, you know, I impress on everybody, our elected officials and everybody listening, that, you know, when is it going to be enough? And what is it that this board and our community needs to do to address these noise concerns? They're not being addressed. And hopefully in 2025, we can actually move the ball. I'm not too optimistic about that, though. But I'll continue to show up and I'll continue to express my concerns and gripes on behalf of this community. But it's very difficult. It's very discouraging. And it makes me question why we're here. Because if we're just talking to ourselves into an echo chamber, you know, I have better things to do, unfortunately. Potentially make more money so I can install those windows. So thank you, and I appreciate your comment.
We have one online.
Laura Ruby?
Yes, can you hear me okay? Can you hear
Yes.
me? Oh, good. Anson, there's something wrong. I'm going to try to sign out and in again, but because my picture is not showing up, it's frozen somewhere in another world on your video connection, but that's another story. I wanted to give you an update very quickly. 4 of the neighborhood boards have agreed and signed on to pass the resolution for a full EIS to ask for the accountability of what the proposed large oversized bridge is going to be across the canal. We are hoping, I did send it to Chairman Finney and Anson to put it on your agenda coming up. I hope that will be the case. I have several other things. I also, Chair Finley, I ask you and I ask Rick Agid both, would you please give us right now, have you gotten any notices from the Army Corps of Engineers? Are they abandoning their project? Why am I hearing random, and it might be unsubstantiated information, that Rick Agid said that the Army Corps of Engineers has pulled out of consideration for any kind of those flood walls and things like that. I think that would be a very good thing. And then finally, the nice gentlewoman last time that was worried about Kuleana, we're all a part of the larger Waikiki Ahupua'a. We're also almost all a part of the Police District 7. We have good portion of Representative Tam in our districts, and we also have Senator Ihara. We have others also, but I'm saying that we have a lot of mutual collaborations, and I think that we should try to work towards that end. But most importantly now, I wouldn't want the wrong information to be going out from Chair Finley or Rick Agid regarding the status of the Army Corps of Engineers regarding the flood walls. And we would like to have a presentation of them and certainly an update of the DTS update also. So thank you very much.
Any other members of the audience with questions and concerns? Seeing none. Oh.
In response to that, the bridge over the LOI, great music, the bridge over the LOI is so long overdue. I don't understand why it's not moving forward. I also, at 2 meetings ago, or 2 months ago rather, mentioned encroachment on the sidewalk from the restaurant next door to me, which is called Shore Fire. And they're very good neighbors, but they're still encroaching on the sidewalk. Nothing has been done about that. I have a question about the new bus striping on Kuhio. There seems to be a lot of confusion about how to use it. And I think it's a very good idea, but it's not intuitive as to which vehicles can be in there and the left turn. And as a bicycle commuter, I do get cut off. Additionally, last night I was biking, and I think it was one of the board members who also noticed this when I complained about the cyclists. They come in packs on scooters and mopeds. Well, probably just scooters. They're riding wheelies and going really fast. And they went on both sides of me on Kuhio. So they went on the bus lane, which is striped red, as well as the other side. And it was kind of terrifying as a biker. Don't see any enforcement from the police department regarding that. I do want to compliment the city about restriping Kalakaua, but it's only been done from, how do I describe this? The Luana Hotel. But airport side of that, it has not been restriped. And I'm just wondering why they've ignored that portion, because the vehicle lanes have been restriped.
Oh. Okay, no footballs with microphones. Go ahead, Joe.
I think, well, thanks for your input. I, like you, ride my bike and walk, and I agree with everything you've said. I want to commend the city for the lane signage, but I agree with you. It's not real intuitive, and it's probably going to require people on water not used to that. On the mainland, they're everywhere. People get it. We're 20 years behind, so it's going to take a little learning curve, I think, for both people. But I ride my bike there all the time. It's completely improved mobility for the vast majority of people, not cars, people. And that's a fact. So you go a lot faster. I ride the bus. It's a lot faster. As far as the paving, I think you may raise a good point. I think the city's waiting on that until they do some sewer line improvements along Kalakaua. I don't know that for sure, but that's a good point. Good observation. But I think it's just a question of waiting on. They don't want to tear up the street and have to tear it up again. So I think they're waiting on that. So that answers your question, but I really appreciate your thoughtful input on that new lane. I think it's a resounding success for people, not for cars, for people. And I'm going to continue to use it. And I honestly just think a little bit of a growing pains here. Drivers need to educate themselves and be more aware, but also bicyclists, moped riders, and pedestrians. So let's keep those lanes, expand on it, and let's everybody learn to use them correctly.
Also, if you have comments about the bus lane, please send them to the City Department of Transportation. Mr. Morton, the director, is asking for inputs so he can evaluate how well this is working. I think in February, if I recall correctly, they're going to have a team down here evaluating it at rush hour times. They've gone through several times early in the morning, but they would like our input. So if you have a input that you can make, email to the City Department of Transportation or a phone call to Director Morton, express your concerns on that. I don't know what we can do about the bike. Nola is back there. She will. Did you have a comment, Nola? I'm sorry. Oh, okay. Yes, I know that. So for your information, I asked Director Morton as well as his staff to be here in April to discuss the bus lane, the future of other bus lanes, and more importantly, the bridge project, because they say it will take that long to, anybody went to the November meetings and looked at all the pictures and stuff? Okay, good. You notice that long form they had you fill out with all the questions? I asked them if they could be here earlier, and they said it's taking a while to evaluate everybody's input and consolidate it. So, and I am calling them monthly. So anyway, if you have problems with concerns about the bus lane itself, please make your voice heard with the proper department over there. So I know it's confusing to me, but then I'm just a driver, so I'm free to sign. Anyway, any other citizens' concerns? Seeing none on screen. Okay.
About the cyclists who drive around Waikiki hot dogging, going too fast, doing, riding on one wheel for, gosh, how many yards? I don't know. But nothing seems to have been done about that.
I think that Chair Waters will probably address that later. But I think what we've done is we've invented new equipment that is not really addressed in any law, because there's been a lot of complaints. HPD is, I'm not sure what they can do about it, especially when they're up on their back wheel and they might hit somebody on the sidewalk. I agree, it's a huge problem. I think anybody in the board would agree. It's just that, I don't think these things have license plates. So I don't know how you ticket them or what you ticket them for. Is there a law that says you can't do that? I don't know. Exhibition of speed, but I think that we will pass this off to Chair Waters for what the city council is considering on this. They have to give them a law to enforce besides just exhibition of speed. But yeah, I agree. Things scare the heck out of me when I'm driving. So, Catherine, did you have?
I'm not sure whether I can comment on something that was discussed earlier, and that is what John mentioned about the count of the homeless and the fact that the homeless really aren't going to be counted. Only the people who are sheltered are going to be counted, and I think that's absolutely wrong. That's exactly what he
That's
said.
exactly what he said.
And I think that it should be known. Chair Waters is here, everybody, they should know. It's going to be reported, oh, we don't have as many homeless. Well, gosh, you didn't count the homeless.
At my last meeting with Trevor and the W bid, and we don't have any bid people here tonight, do we? They did their own count and they had 180 homeless, sheltered and unsheltered in the Waikiki area, which included neighborhood board area 5, which is the library and the area over there. So I'm hoping to get a better heads up.
My building, which, as I just said, is by Denny's, has had to stop their recycling as of this week because the homeless are coming into our garage area and into our garbage areas, and they're taking all the recycled materials out of our garbage.
No, and sure, just to follow up on that and what Tim said, I mean, I agree. I mean, the idea of doing a homeless count, the point and turn count, but not counting like the really homeless is sort of absurd, right? I mean, it's like, okay, we're going to do this homeless count, but we're only going to take the guys that are actually in a shelter. We're not going to count the guys that are actually out on the street causing the biggest problem, the people that are the most, I mean, it's beyond ridiculous. So I agree. And it's got to be, I'm guessing, either they're too lazy to do it or it's a scheme to make it look like the problem's not so bad. And I guess just in terms of what Tim said, the idea of a homeless camp, maybe it is a decent idea. I mean, these people are kind of here anyway. So who knows? But I agree with you that the city shouldn't just be, we're just going to do it and not talk to the neighborhood board or talk to the community. I think we should be asking for a presentation and have them come here and at least give us a briefing on it so people can weigh in and give their opinions on it. I think that's the very least the city should be doing.
Yes, Robert.
I think we should. Is it on? I think we should also consider that HUD requires a homeless count every 2 years. There's a lot of work that goes in to the agencies when they do a homeless count. There's a lot of manpower. There's a lot of organization that goes into it. I don't know the particulars of it, but I think we should consider that being a factor, that the fact that we have done homeless counts every single year, even though that it wasn't required by HUD. And this year, this is the first time that we're not doing a homeless count this year, but we're just going by what the HUD requirements are. So I think that should be considered too as well.
I think I have a meeting with the bid next week. I'll ask them what's happening there. The Business Improvement District Association. Although I think did Katie give birth? Okay, so the lady in charge just had a baby, which puts her on maternity leave. Ken, you had something?
Yeah, I want to switch back to the motorcycles doing the wheelies.
Now, I live right above Alamoana. And every Saturday, every Sunday, from 10 to noon, you're going to see 50 of them cruise down the street. And I'm a little disappointed that the police officers who are here for the first time, I don't see them here, I apologize. But I wish they would stay so they could hear what people have to say. But if they would just set up some kind of a DUI stop on Alamoana on Saturday or Sunday morning, they'd arrest them all in a day. So, when I hear that they did one, then zero, it just is ridiculous because it would be very easy to stop it. So.
Or
I think this goes back to foot patrol. So if there are officers in Waikiki doing foot patrol, they see something like that, they call a squad and say they're headed in that direction. It seems like the most efficient way.
thank you, everybody. Don't see any more hands or waving at me. So let's move on to public events. The only street closure on Kalakaua that I am aware of is on Monday, this coming Monday, January 20, 8:30 in the morning to 11:30. We have the Dr. Martin Luther King Day Parade. February does not have too many events either. Some at Kapiolani Park. I had no applications for liquor license this month. Although I have a certified letter at home, so that might be one of them. Elected officials, Nola, are you ready to represent the mayor? And Happy New Year. While she's coming up, Ken, have you been keeping the 2 minute or 2.5? You haven't. I forgot to mention it to the audience. We do have a 2.5 minute limit for comments, and Ken Jacob will let you know if you exceed that. So thank you.
Good evening, Chair Finley and members of the Neighborhood Board. Happy New Year to everyone. I hope you all had a wonderful holiday and a nice break. I want to make a couple of announcements just to start off. I'll go through them really quickly because we have a little bit, we have lots of news that we want to cover tonight. So just in terms of the mayor's highlights, the newsletter that comes out every month that's on his website talks about the Eddy, which was a fabulous event for us this year. We have a new landfill site in central Oahu, which I'm sure many of you have heard of in the news. We paid tribute to Councilmember Calvin Say this year after decades of retired, five decades of public service. And recently the city won a $2 million grant for an affordable housing development in Evie Lay. So there's a lot of wonderful things going on across the island. What I want to do is kind of cover some of the things that came up. Actually, it was 2 months ago in November. And then at the end, Chair Finley, I'm going to, we have a special guest here from the city, Director Roger Babcock, who is the Director of Environmental Services, and he's going to talk about the sewer fees. And you can ask him anything and everything about his department in addition to that, but he may not be prepared for that. Okay, so one announcement I want to talk about, the 2025 neighborhood board elections are now open registration. So the candidate and voter filing deadline is Friday, February 21. And you can register online at the Neighborhood Commission Office website, honolulu.gov/NCO. And if you have any questions, just write down this number, 808-768-3710. you have any questions about about the neighborhood commission. Friday, April 25th, the voting begins, and May 16th, Friday, the voting ends. Any resident, including military family members, personnel, legal resident, aliens, can be a candidate. You have to be at least 18 years old, and you must reside within the neighborhood board boundaries. Another quick announcement is that last year the city council established the Department of Ocean Safety, and the commission is now the city is now looking for commissioners, and so there's a lot of the commission will play a really big role in the water safety across the island, and one of their mandates is to hire and staff the Department of Ocean Safety, including the director. So right now there's an interim director in place. So that will be the function, besides a number of other things, running the annual budget, reviewing operations. They'll operate, they'll function similar to our fire and police commission. So that's exciting new development. And it looks like if you're interested in being considered to be a member of the commission, submit a resume and cover letter by January 31 to MDoffice, MDOFFICE @honolulu.gov. That would go to the managing director's office. Okay, so just responding to what came up 2 months ago. We had a complaint about the shore fire tables and chairs on the sidewalk at 2446 Koa Avenue. And HPD responded. They went to check the sidewalk, and they confirmed that the tables and chairs from the restaurant were encroaching onto the sidewalk. And the manager of the restaurant said that they are currently in the process of renewing their permit, which has expired. And so he did remove the tables and chairs. I guess that was confirmed. So the incident was documented by HPD. I've asked DTS director and the Department of Permit and Planning director to see what the status is of the various. This was a 2-year pilot program, I believe, that started in 2022 to continue to allow outdoor dining after COVID. So I'm not sure what the status is, but I asked them to give me an update on that for the next time. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to do that for this week. Vicky Bike Station on Kapalua Avenue. I think we were talking about this. Come up. It is temporary, and we were asked to give an estimated time for when the Jefferson Elementary School perimeter replacement project will be completed. And done. And so, but they did, if anyone wants more information, we would encourage you to call Jefferson Elementary directly, because I think we're only responding to their request and their project, but their number is 808-971-6922. So if anyone on the board wants to follow up with that, that's what the department has recommended. Okay, so the town hall early trash pickup, this came up, in November, and the mayor and the MD are, as I mentioned, willing to come out and do a town hall. I think they're working with the neighborhood board to perhaps schedule. And I did give the managing director's response last time, and there are huge concerns, but they're willing to try to find a solution that will help the private contractors and the neighbors find a solution that's workable. So someone will reach out to you to schedule that for one of the upcoming meetings. Yeah. Okay, so, um, the last item is about the sewer fee. So there were a lot of questions about the sewer fees, whether they apply to condos, how does the fee rate apply to condos and all of that. So, the best thing is to ask the expert himself. So we were able to get, Dr. Roger Babcock, who runs the Department of Environmental Services, here tonight, and he's going to talk a little bit about the sewer fee rates and the structures. And so if there's not, if there are any other, before we do that, are there any questions not related to E&B?
Yeah, Nola. First, it was a temporary beaky bike. Now they're saying they're not going to move it. When I first made the complaint, it was in September. I have witnessed buses picking up handicapped people in this far secondhand lane. At Christmas time and New Year's Eve, the traffic was horrendous, and it was worsened by the fact that people couldn't make a right-hand turn onto Kuhio out of Kapalulu. So why can they not move it across the street to
To a different temporary location?
to the zoo?
That I don't know. I mean, we could ask.
I did ask last time.
Did you ask?
I asked you in
Oh,
November.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure why, but right now they don't want to relocate it. They said it's difficult to relocate the the stand. It's fairly an intensive project, and because they're not sure about the timing of the Jefferson project, they're really kind of relying on the project, I guess, and
So that bike station could be there for years.
I don't think so. I think it was actually scheduled to be done already, but I think it's actually been delayed. But I do think it's going to be this year. But I guess that they don't want to say, they don't really know what the time frame is for the project, and so that's why they're recommending that someone call the Jefferson School and Elementary to see what the status is, because I guess the way it works right now, they've moved the stand according to the request, and there seems to be a reluctance to move it because they don't know when they have to move it back. So the timing is just the uncertainty of the timing of the project is what the city is not sure about. So they don't want to keep moving it. I guess it's I'm not sure, but they told me it's quite a big deal to move it again.
I'm not just complaining on my behalf because I no longer drive, but I have received many phone calls about the fact that people are getting jammed up, close calls. Bikes are coming in between the traffic on one side because the beaky bike is there, and they want to put their bikes up. It's not really safe. So I think somebody ought to look into it again.
Yeah, Anson, maybe we can just renew that. We can have another response from.
Actually, could we ask the city to strongly consider moving it? Yes. I think we've heard enough about safety and our ADA people being in a very unsafe position boarding buses. I think that should be enough encouragement for the crane to come out, pick it up and move it or do something with it. We appreciate whatever you can do on that.
Yeah, maybe we can, I'm not really clear. I did, we did get a response from them, and I think that was their response. So we can try to see if we can just try to renew that request to see if there's any change in.
I brought it up at the November bridge meeting, and I was told that it takes a crane to lift that thing.
Yeah, that's why I guess, oh yeah, and I meant it to cover the Alawai. Yeah, I think that must be, they're saying it's quite involved, it's difficult to move. And so it's not just like, a couple work people can come and just, lift it up and move it down. I guess that's the problem. And I think they probably did not realize, I don't know that they really understand all the issues that are happening right now, because they said they haven't heard that much. So, we may need to try to get a little bit more conversation with.
There was a lot of confusion about when it should actually have been moved. And I think that was the school gave them a bad start time on the project, and then the school doesn't really care.
Yeah.
Their state, so I think the additional money to bring another crane in, move it someplace else, and 7 months, 8 months from now, move it back, fine. But right now, we don't need anybody to get run over there. That area had a lot of damage to a lot of people hit by cars already, and speeding, and HPD has been enforcing speeding, but sounds like a expensive, hard work, expensive deal to move it, but it's safer than losing people. Anyway,
Yeah,
I
okay.
hope you all agree with that.
Yeah. I think. What is one more? Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, and then one additional thing I forgot to mention is that Roger Morton also let me know, he gave me a little bit update. I asked him for an update on the Alawai Bridge project. He will be here in April, but he did say there were 400 or so comments from the charrettes that they did, and they're compiling them, and they're going to create an RFP based on the different input they've had from the community, and that report is going to be out this summer. So they're still working on it. It's not, the design, nothing has been finalized yet, but they're still in the, feedback and resolving the final product.
In November, he anticipated April as the date to have the best information. But I'm going to call him again and ask him if he can move it up. But I want good information, not just
Sure.
splattered information.
Yeah.
Sorry. Can we wait until the sewer presentation is done? Okay. Thank you.
What Catherine said makes perfect sense. Why wasn't that beaky rack originally done on the other side of the shared path? It has no place on the sidewalk because we can't bike on the sidewalk, and there's so much traffic there. Placing it across the street at the zoo permanently, where there's sections, it varies, but as wide as 12 feet, which people don't use. It's not paved. So that's where the beaky rack should have gone originally. Thanks.
Thank you. Anything else?
We had one more question for the mayor's rep. Sorry.
We got multiple questions.
What was it? Yeah. Sorry.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Nola, for being here. Always enjoy listening to your reports. I would like to give a shout out to the city, both for starting the Kuhio Bus Rapid Transit Project. I have never felt safer being able to bike down Kuhio properly than in that dual bus and bike lane. So please keep being aggressive and pushing that project. I would also like to thank the city. Don't know what department did some targeted sidewalk improvements over the holidays. That was really nice. Only thing about that was they kind of left a bit of a mess on Keoniana Street where I live. They left a bunch of rubble and on the side of the road, and they left like a wooden pallet that they had finished using, which was a little unfortunate because they did a good job. So as they go around, do targeted improvements in Waikiki, please encourage the crews to clean up. And I would like to convey that I was reading Civil Beat a couple weeks ago, and they did an interview with the director of Parks and Recreation and the quality of our parks buildings. And the director basically called citizens morons for not being able how to use and treat public facilities properly, which is her excuse for why we don't have soap in our public facilities. And, that was incredibly condescending, incredibly rude. The public is not a bunch of morons. And, I think that rather than instead of complaining about the public, her department should be taking better care of our public spaces and our public facilities. a lot of them unfortunately are not well cared for. They're not in good condition. So I would encourage that Director of Parks and Recreation to focus on improving what she is responsible for, vice blaming the public for failing to do her job properly. Thank you.
Thank you. When was that a television interview?
It was a Civil Beat article from a couple weeks ago. I can show it to you offline.
I can find it.
Happy New Year, Nola. I have two concerns. Let me start with my concern that's not of as great importance as my second. I've noticed over the last couple of heavy rains on Keoniana and other streets that run Mauka Makai are pooling water in heavy rains. Keoniana particularly, we had a heavy rain like a month ago, and the water that was pooling was there for at least a week and a half before it dried up. I'm wondering if there's any even notice of that happening on a lot of the streets that run Mauka Makai and Waikiki, at least in Sub-District 2 in my area. The next comment is something that, again, like the noise, I want to continue just to gripe about, and that's how difficult it is to cross the street in Waikiki, particularly across the Alawai, which Chair Finley, I know, has been asking for a long time. I think in the past you've reported that Department of Transportation has said the timing is okay and they're not trying to fix it. To me, that's just wrong. I'm starting to think of Waikiki as a highway, more built and constructed for commuter traffic, to get from one side of Waikiki to the other. There needs to be automatic pedestrian crosswalks. There doesn't need to be a button, which are oftentimes vandalized, don't work, particularly on streets like the Alawai where people use it to run, like myself. What can be done about this? Is the city just going to tell us that, nope, we're not going to change anything about it? We think it's adequate? Or is there any room for improvement and increasing pedestrians' ability to cross the street in Waikiki?
All right, thank you. Oh,
Yeah, go ahead.
Nola, just a quick one for next time. I'm wondering if you could update on the mayor's work on chickens. The chicken situation in District 3 is out of control. I walked out of my building the other day, there were 40 chickens, and I know at this time that's the county's responsibility, so any information would be helpful.
We had a technical issue. Thank you.
Hi, Nola. For next time, would it be possible to find out what the mayor is doing to encourage recruitment? Because I did do some investigation to figure out why are we short 400 police officers? And it turns out that other cities like Seattle, for example, is offering bonuses. And that is actually what taking officers away because first of all, cost of living is cheaper there. We can't do much about that. However, if we could work on, and also the pay. And then the third thing I heard, another issue about why people are, HPD is leaving some of them is because they have to pay for their own uniform, like just small things. But I'm just, we could figure out how to out recruit maybe the other cities. Appreciate it.
well, I think that HPD does their own recruitment, even though, you know, they work closely with DHR, but they did put a $25,000 incentive, recruitment incentive bonus in place. And I think they think that the salaries are comparable to the mainland salaries for the recruits. Yeah, so that bonus is $25,000. They have to pass the probation. They get it in stages. So the HPD themselves, I mean, they think that the pay is actually comparable, starting pay. I think there's a number of issues that they have with retention. And it's not easy to become a police officer. It's very difficult to pass the background check, to pass the the different kinds of exams. It takes a year to actually become a police officer. So, they get paid something around $70,000 and they only have to have a high school degree and they have to pass all the tests. I mean, they have to be interviewed and such. So it's not insignificant pay that they are offering. It's just the times are changed and it's difficult to recruit people and it's very difficult to get them in the door once they sometimes find people. So it's a complicated issue, I think, and there, as you know, there's competition from the mainland, but I think it's something that's always top of mind. They're working on it all the time.
Just to follow up real fast, because people I spoke to are actually the union for the police officers. And let's talk about this later, just so, because I think what you're saying is not matching what the union's
They
saying,
do get
so.
union, the allowance, and if they want unions that aren't part of the collective bargaining, they may have to pay. So there are uniform equipment allowances. If they drive their own car, there's car allowances, all kind of allowances that are built into the collective bargaining agreement. It's just that if they would like to do things different, some of them want different kinds of guns or uniforms that aren't paid for. So it depends on what the officer wants, and then if they do it outside of the contract or if they want to get something outside of the contract, it has to be personally paid. So the contract is a big book, so it's it's complicated, but yeah. Okay, but I think there's a recruitment team for HPD, and we can ask them to comment.
Oh, I got a message from Amanda Zabita. She's saying that regarding to the bike station, Chair Waters' office has a pending request with DTS for the bike station issue. And regarding Daniel Jacobs' question about the investigation of the drainage in Kunia, the Department of Design and Construction is investigating the drainage currently right now.
Thank you.
Ed Springer, you have a question?
I did, but it's been largely beaten up already. Nola, thank you for looking into the Beaky Bike Station. I just wanted to add a little piece of information or two to what we had. I went out and counted the number of cars that were going by that spot on the road today. I need to get a life, but I did, and it comes out to about 10,000 a day. About 10,000 motor vehicles go by that place on the road. So it's not an insignificant thing to have to put slow down all those cars, inconvenience them, and make a dangerous situation right there. And that includes emergency vehicles. That includes buses and bicycles. There's actually a bicycle that went by while I was there, was riding along where the parked cars would be, but he had to swing out into the lane of traffic fairly dangerously when he got to where the Beaky Bike Station was. So I just wanted to add a little bit of that. And the way I would summarize it is my real question is, what criteria are used to put a Beaky Bike Station like that on a road? The current situation is clearly you're inconveniencing 10,000 cars that are going, 10,000 vehicles, cars, buses, and trucks going by there. You're creating a dangerous situation. And the other side, as near as I could tell, there was one Beaky Bike sitting in that stand today. One, and it was there when I was there out this afternoon. It was there tonight. So I don't know how many Beaky Bikes they're renting out of that station, but it's not many. So it's sort of a cost benefit question. Look at how much we're spending in cost for everybody's inconvenience and danger, and what's the benefit? That's the point I'd add. So thank you for looking into it, Nola.
Sure, thank you.
Greg, did you? Yeah.
Just a quick comment. I wasn't going to say anything about the Bicky bikes tonight, but two quick things. One thing I've noticed, the stations are very often empty, where there's one or two bicycles. I have quite a few photos I've been collecting, and I'm going to continue to do that where I see them. The second is these Bicky bike stations. I'm not sure when they were put into play, different times. They're rusting out. seriously rusting out. So if you look at the bottom of them, even where the kiosk is placed, they're going to fall apart. They're already falling apart. And I'm surprised that they weren't built and constructed with materials that would be rust resistant. If you look at them, there's literally holes in sections from rust. So I don't understand the concept, knowing that it's going to be outdoors in a rainy environment and we're near the ocean. So is that something that you could look at? Because I think the Wiki Bike.
I'll pass that on to the Department of Transportation. I think they're managing Wiki bikes right now, so.
Okay. There may be a way to mitigate it now before it gets worse where they're repaired and the life expectancy of them is longer. Otherwise, they're going to have a very short life expectancy from what I could see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't see any other hands. Anybody else with questions? Go ahead with your sewer presentation, please. And thank you, Nola.
All right, Roger Babcock, B&V. Thank you, everyone.
Okay, good evening, Chair Finley and board members, audience. I'm Roger Babcock. I'm Director of the Department of Environmental Services. I gave a handout to the board members before I got up here, and there's some more of those for the audience if you want them on the back table. Yes, thank you for showing that flyer. I first wanted to compliment you on how many board members you have and that they're all here. I've been to nearly all the boards around the island, and I got to say, you got a pretty big audience compared to what I usually see, and a very large board. And you've got your council member, Chair Waters, here. So congratulations on having, you must have interesting meetings. So thank you. But I'm here to talk about sewer feed. So environmental services, we take care of wastewater and solid waste for the city. Solid waste takes almost 400 city staff. Sewer takes almost 800 city staff, to do that work. So sewer is a big operation. We service, almost the entire island, 760,000 customers, 2,100 miles of sewer pipes, 71 pump stations, and 9 wastewater treatment plants around the island. The largest one is the one that serves you. It's at Sand Island, out by the airport. And so the flyer kind of explains a little bit about what we do and why we need to raise the sewer fees. We have to operate all of those facilities. We have to do capital improvement projects, construction projects to upgrade, rehabilitate, and expand facilities, as well as comply with ever-changing regulations that we have with the US EPA and the State Department of Health. And so all the plants operate on a 5-year permit. It gets renewed every 5 years. And there's always new, generally always new requirements. So we have to keep up with all that stuff. Another big thing is that the city got a little bit behind on some of its sewer activities. If you remember, back in the early 2000s and even before that, and resulted in lawsuits and enforcement and things that were eventually settled in 2010 when the city signed on to a federal consent decree with the U.S. Department of Justice, the EPA, the State Department of Health, and several other litigants. So the consent decree is for 25 years duration from 2010 through 2035. So we are about 14 years into it now, and there's, almost 15 years, and there's 10 years left till the end of 2035 to finish. That project that's a series of projects that were very, very large. Altogether, the total cost is about $5 billion for the work that was required in that agreement that the city signed. 2 of the 3 phases have been completed. The first phase was the collection system. That's related to the force main, for example, the one that broke in Waikiki that everybody remembers had to pump sewage into the Alawai Canal. That was in 2009. And really did accelerate the getting the consent decree. But there was 145 projects as part of that. That was finished. It had to be done in the first 10 years by 2020, and it was. The second project was to upgrade the large treatment plant out in Eva Beach. We call that Honolulu wastewater treatment plant. That needed to be upgraded by June of this past year of 2024. That project was completed on time and on budget last summer. The final project is to upgrade the Sand Island treatment plant, which is your treatment plant, which serves urban Honolulu, Aina, all the way out to Red Hill. Large area, large treatment plant, the largest treatment plant in the state. That final phase needs to be finished by December 31st of 2035, about 10 years from now. It's a large project. It's been broken up into 2 phases. The first phase is under construction. It's about 65% complete. Second phase has to start construction in 2029 for 7 years of construction to finish in 2035. The reason I mention that is it is a fairly big driver in our need to the magnitude of the sewer fee increases that we need. Just to let you know, though, that our construction projects like that one, which Sand Island is a $2.5 billion project on its own, are all debt financed. So we issue bonds, tax-free municipal bonds every year. And that is how we fund construction projects. We don't pay cash. We're paying with debt. So essentially we take out a 30-year mortgage for that amount of money, and then we pay back principal and interest over the duration, just like you do on your homes. And we also get to refinance very often in order to get lower rates and reduce our debt service as we go along. But basically the sewer fees, the sewer enterprise is an enterprise service, which means that you get a separate bill for that, separate from your property tax. Property tax is not used for sewer, and sewer funds cannot be used for any other city service, like first responders, police, fire, not parks, nothing else. What you pay for sewer can only be used for sewer. But what that means is that the sewer fees have to match the expense requirements of the service. So we have revenue requirements which are based upon providing the service. So when the costs go up to provide the service and pay the debt, we need to raise rates. So that's what's covered in the handout. And I did want to point out that folks are often unsure that whether their sewer bill has gone up recently. But I can tell you that the last time the sewer fees increased was on July 1st of 2016. So it will be 9 years in this coming July 1st since there's been any sewer fee increase. So the rate increase has been 0 for those number of years. However, costs have continued to increase for everything that you do and that we do. Fuel, electricity, we have a very large electricity bill. We buy a lot of fuel. We have personnel, healthcare costs, everything that you can imagine, lots of consumables, just like everybody else. So inflation has continued to eat away at our revenues. So we are proposing to a 10-year sewer fee increase package. And that's not an arbitrary duration. It gets us to exactly to the end of the consent decree. So we can finish all the consent decree. We can rip the Band-Aid off now one time and finish this work that has to be done. That'll be closed out, and then we won't have to worry about that anymore. So that's the thinking with respect to that. The specifics of the rate increase are in your handout, of course, and it does show you that it's going to go up, not what we've requested, and what we need is 9% per year for 6 years in a row, 9% more, then 9% more, then 9% more, then 8, 7, 6, and 5% to finish out the 10 years, with the last one occurring on July 1st of 2034. So this is a long-term rate increase. The average person's bill in the first year would go up $10 a month. The average bill is around $100, $110. So there is a handout that shows the rate increase, actual bills for single-family residential and what it would be currently and what it would be with each of the consecutive 10 increases, over the duration of this, of what we're proposing, what we've requested. I want to mention a couple other things, and sorry, Chair, let me know if I'm going too long, and I'll start answering questions at any time and stop talking. But basically, the sewer fee consists of 2 components, a base charge and a volumetric charge. So a base charge is kind of like a service fee. It stays the same every month. It's a certain dollar amount. For a single-family residence, it's $77.55. For a multifamily residence, you live in a condo, high-rise, multifamily unit, it's a smaller number. It is about 60-something% of that, and it is $53.32. That's the base charge currently today and every day since the middle of 2016. Then there's a volumetric charge. Volumetric charge is based on how much water you buy from the Board of Water Supply. Because most of that, we assume 80% of that becomes sewage. And so you're paying for 80% of the water that is going to become sewage. The volumetric charge per 1,000 gallons today is $4.63. It doesn't matter whether you're in a single-family residence or multifamily residence, or you're non-residential, even businesses, restaurants, hotels. Everybody pays that same volumetric charge. It doesn't matter how many thousands you use, you pay the same cost per 1,000 gallons, which is different than Board of Water Supply, which has an inclining rate increasing block schedule. So the more you use, the more you pay per 1,000 gallons. But ours is a constant, and it will remain that way. In order to, so the average user, the median user uses 6,000 gallons per month. Median means half the people use that much or less, and half the people use more than that of all of the roughly 150,000 customer accounts. And that customer is paying right now, single family one is paying $99.77. And if you're in a multifamily unit, that would be charged $75.54. That's the monthly charge with the base charge plus the volumetric charge for using that amount of water. The issue that came up while we were going through our rate setting study, which was over a year, and we had a large stakeholder advisory group, which included some neighborhood board members, people from business industry, and lots of other community advocates and stuff. We had 35 people on that. One of the things they suggested was that the proportion of the bill that's a base charge is too high. And that most of the bill is the base charge and not very much of it is the volumetric charge. So what that means is there's very little incentive to do water conservation. If you use 1,000 gallons less per month, you save $4.63, which is very, very tiny. So what were requested to do and what we proposed is we're going to change the charge scheme such that the base charge is only about half of the bill and the volumetric charge is the other half. So what that means is that's phased in over 4 years. So what that means is over 4 years, the base charge is not going to increase at all. It's going to stay the same. But the volumetric charge per 1,000 gallons will increase in order to make the overall increase that's needed of 9%. What that does is it incentivizes water conservation, and we feel it gives customers more control of your bill. Because even if you used 1,000 gallons or 0 gallons, you're going to pay $77.55 today. And that could be a very, very large portion of your bill. It could be 70, 80, 90% of your bill. Very high water users are going to be charged more like Board of Water Supply. They're essentially going to pay a higher portion, see larger increases because the volumetric charge will be increasing. It will still be a constant number, but it will increase. So for example, some actual numbers, $4.63 per month per 1,000 gallons now. It goes up to $6.14 in year one, which is July 1st of this year. Goes up to then $7.89, then $9.90, and then eventually 10 years from now, it goes up to $18.66. So what that means is today you save almost nothing by using 1,000 less gallons, but in the future, you'd save $18.66 for every 1,000 gallons if you decide to do water conservation in order to save money. So that's what that's about. Finally, the last thing I'll mention is that we also are instituting a customer assistance program that we call CARES. And it is modeled after the rental and utility relief program that was very successful during the pandemic and after. I kind of just finished up that the city ran through OER, which qualifications for that are that you have to be household income less than or equal to 80% of the AMI, area median income. And then if you qualify for that, you can get a credit on your base charge of $20 to $25 per month, which if you remember the numbers I told you, that's pretty significant. That actually would erase all of the increases over the first 4 years of this package for people that qualify. So it's an attempt, and we've never done that before. There's no such program now. It's an attempt to try to assist those who need it the most. And so the last thing I'll say then is that the next steps are, this is currently before City Council. We can't do this without getting their approval. But it is for us. It's our requirements. It's our needs. It's what we have to do. And so it has to go through multiple readings at City Council. So that's going to be over the next 3 months to take to get that approved. And so there'll be lots of opportunities for committee meetings and council meetings and times for people to weigh in specifically. And you can also call us anytime for information. I'd be happy to do that.
Roger, looking at this, I really wish you would have brought numbers that reflect condominium use, because most of the people in this room don't live in single houses. But my question for you is, in July 1st, 2034, does the rate drop back just to basic and we've paid off the whole sewer repair thing? I mean, do we?
Yep. Good question. Yeah. Thanks, Robert. No, because like when we buy a house, we are paying for it essentially with a mortgage, with a 30-year mortgage. So the money that we borrow this year and next year and over the next 10 years, including that amount for the giant Sand Island project, we will be paying off over 30 years. So the debt, that's how you avoid having to raise the rates by 300 or 400% all at one time if you were going to pay for it with cash like you did the rail. Instead, we finance it. So the debt will extend out for a long period of time. That doesn't mean, though, that rates need to continue to increase by very large percentages. Each of the numbers that I represent do include 3% for inflation. So 9%, 3% inflation. And when we get out to year 10, it's only 5% total, and 3% of that is inflation. So we're getting very close to the inflation rate beyond that. I hope that answers your question.
I've got Jeff, followed by Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. You touched on what I was gonna get to. Everyone in this room who lives in Waikiki, we choose a sustainable, efficient neighborhood with high density. Single family homes are inherently unsustainable. They don't pay for themselves and their services. My point being, we don't want to subsidize single family homes in Kapolei with their landscaping and the whole thing. So it's imperative that the condo rate and again, the fixed rate and the other volumetric makes sense. That's equitable. The fixed rate needs to reflect our choices to live in an efficient neighborhood. I'm gonna leave it at that. I can go on and on about that.
Yeah.
We're not going to subsidize single family homes or single family residences out in Kahala, out in Kailua, and out in Kapolei. Second, I really want to commend you on this. Maybe you don't get these types of compliments. This flyer is great. You start with saying, what does ENV do? I know, because I work with them, but the average person, this is perfectly orchestrated and implemented. So appreciate this.
Thank you.
A lot of wonkish numbers here, but you've kind of made it accessible and digestible to the average person. So I want to commend you on that. That's basically all I said, but I can't emphasize enough. We choose to live in this neighborhood. It's sufficient and sustainable. And I'll be damned if we're going to pay for people who choose a different route.
Thanks. Thank you for the Thanks for the kudos on the flyer. It is geared towards the single family because they're a much larger proportion of the customer base. But on the website, which is on the flyer, it does have the table for multifamily residential. And so all the numbers are there. It'll show you your bill, no matter however much water you use, what your bill is today and what it's going to be as moving forward. And there is a discount and it is based on actual water use. So that's how we come up with the number for the base charge. And that's why the base charge is currently $25 less per month for multifamily residential than it is for single family. So they're paying $77.55. You're paying $53.32. And so it'll always stay that way. It'll always be that much lower, that same percentage. That's what's proposed. And the folks who use more water are paying more, for the volumetric part. And I would also point out that the multifamily residential, we have a sub-metering program, which is also available to single-family residents. And there are hundreds in both categories of people who have put a separate meter on their irrigation system. And what that does is they get to measure, because they may be using more than 20% of their water for irrigation, which is very common in a multifamily residential place with lots of nice landscaping. And so if you measure that water separately, then we don't assume the 20%. You don't get the 20% credit. Instead, you get the actual amount. So you install the meter and your property manager reads it every month and texts the information to environmental services, and we correctly credit you that amount off of the charge.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, it's one more thing. Per linear foot of infrastructure for sewerage, per person is significantly less for Waikiki citizens. So someone who chooses to live out in the back 40, and they have to extend sewer lines out to their house, they should have to pay for that. I live in the 31st floor of a high rise. So my use of a linear foot per sewer line and maintenance and repairing breaks and all that is significantly less. So again, you know where I stand on this. So I'm going to be quiet now, but I feel strongly we choose to live this efficient way and we deserve the benefit of it. Wow.
Thank you. Noted.
Just a question. So you mentioned since 2016, there's been no price increases and there's cost increases. So anybody that's fiscally, sound in their judgments of budgets and things like that, and it should be the department that does that. Why were there no increases for 9 years? And then all of a sudden you're coming at the public with, a massive amount of increases over the next 10 years. But to me, that says there's something wrong there.
Yeah, thanks for that question. And it's, I think it's really there's kind of two things going on. One is that there was quite a bit of increases before that, and they were fairly large. And those were like right after the consent decree. So some very large increases went into play. And those actually were, and then there was efficiencies and costs ended up being as we predicted and not higher. There's actually been quite a lot of vacancies. You've probably heard this before. The city has a lot of vacancies, so costs have been lower than budgeted. And so during that time period, there's been enough money. What's happening though is now we've got one big project and a bunch of other projects that we've got to do, and we've got to borrow the money. And we're going to be increasing our debt service. And the idea is that ideally you would raise the rates 3% every year just to meet inflation, right? Kind of like you do with wages, right? You kind of expect that you're going to get a raise to kind of keep up with inflation. And other counties do that. Maui pretty much has a 3% increase every year. And people can get used to either zero, unfortunately, or 2% or 3%, whatever it is, you can get used to it. So it's a very good point. I can't really speak to what happened before. When we came in office, it was COVID time. It was really difficult to do any kind of sewer fee increase in 21 and 22 and 23. It's really just coming up now because we just really can't wait any longer. And we need to do those. And if we wait any longer, then we start to have double digit increases in the next couple of years. And we just don't feel like that's fair. We should start now. And so we can have kind of a smooth rise and a smooth decrease, as we go along. So I hope that is a reasonable answer.
Yeah, I remember when EPA and and several environmental organizations like Hawaii's Thousand Friends and others brought a federal court action against the city for non-compliance with the Clean Water Act. And I think the sewer upgrades were required. I think there was a requirement to go from primary treatment to secondary treatment in some cases. So am I correct that the driver of this is that basically is this what you need to come into compliance with the consent decree? And that's why the fees are going up?
Yeah, thanks for that question. So the answer is partially yes. I mean, we really need to do the increase now because of the timing of that project. It has a specific deadline. We have to start construction by a certain date in order to finish and meet that.
In order to be in compliance.
And be in compliance, absolutely. So we're right now not in compliance. We have interim compliance until that project's completed. And then once it's completed, then we're fully in
Then
compliance.
you would be in compliance.
Fully in
Right,
compliance.
but just so I'm clear, I mean, this is not just to pay for normal improvements and upgrades to the sewer system. It's because of the city's prior history of violations of the Clean Water Act, where they got sued and were forced to come into compliance. That's part of the driver of the increase in fees, isn't it?
That's correct.
Okay.
John,
How you doing? Great presentation, very clear and concise. One of the first public officials that made sense in 5 years. I don't need a abacus to decipher, but anyway, along Jeff's line, creative idea. There are some recreational facilities that are unnecessarily using a lot of water that maybe you can think about jacking up their percentage. Golf courses, these wave pools, I think there's one, you're thinking of two. There's some things that use an enormous amount of water at the risk of being murdered by golfers, because there's always one or two at these meetings that the golf course is the biggest thing in the world, but they waste a lot of water, use a lot of water. And maybe you can think about, since it's a city facility and the wave pool is a private facility, these recreational things that use a lot of water and don't need, are not necessary. Maybe you can jack their rates up a little bit. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks for that comment.
watching everybody's calculators going crazy on this, I think we could have him here all night, but for the time being, is there any other questions we need to ask that we haven't addressed? Seeing none, Roger, thank you very much.
Sure, you're welcome. And yeah, thank you. Very nice. And if you invite me back anytime, we'll come. So thanks.
They're all here because they get premium pay tonight. Wait a minute, no pay, what is that? Thank you very much. Next, we have Church Tommy Waters from Honolulu City Council, who this is going to fall on your shoulders, I imagine.
Hello, everyone. Good to see you all. You know, I gotta say, besides the mayor, council chair, and managing director, probably the hardest job in the city is director of environmental services. You know, if you think about it, not only is he in charge of our sewer, but also siting a new landfill, possibly over an aquifer, right? So I want to thank you, Roger, for being out here tonight and presenting, because these are some of the things that the city council is dealing with every day. In fact, Roger presented today about landfill. We all make garbage, right? And we all got to figure out how to dispose of it in a safe way and in a responsible way. And that's no easy task because whatever we come up with is going to be expensive. But again, thank you for that explanation. You know, to be clear, that's 100% increase in 10 years. 100%. And that's tough. That's tough. You may have read in the newspaper, Calvin Say introduced a resolution asking that we look into other ways of solving this problem. One of the ways, and by the way, Lou, you're exactly right. The city was sued. And as part of the settlement, we agreed to these secondary upgrades. Yeah. So it's a mandate. And the EPA is enforcing that. One of the things we asked them to look at is possible setting aside that court case and entering into a new settlement and asking the EPA for a waiver. We used to have a waiver along with San Diego, the city of San Diego, and I think American Samoa, because we pump our sewage into the ocean. One of the ideas was let's go like 3 times as far so that it wouldn't affect our shoreline. Another idea was to ask the federal government who's imposing this on us to help us pay for it. And perhaps even looking at money that we appropriate every year for vacant positions and use some of that money to defray the costs of these upgrades. I know as Jeff was saying that condominiums are different because you don't have the linear feet like homes do. But the fact of the matter is we all flush our toilets. I'd venture to say that we do an equal amount, whether you live in a single family home or apartment. And really that's where this money is going, directly to upgrade the wastewater treatment plant at Sand Island. And that's, Roger, over $1 billion, almost $2 billion that we have to raise. And that's no pocket change. So I think we got to get creative and figure out how we can try to defray these costs. Fact of the matter is, it's a federal consent decree. We got to do it. But I just want to try to figure out ways we can defray. As far as, you know, your water bill, if you do get a water bill, a lot of condominium owners don't, but your water bill is typically separated and they give it to you with a line down the middle. One side is water. I pay about $26 a month for water. And on the other side is a sewer fee. I pay about $126 for sewer fee. So that's $150. My bill is going to be double in 10 years. That's going to be $300. Can you imagine a family of 4 who's now paying probably more like $250? They're going to have a $500 bill, right? We got to do it. We got to do it. But let's like try to figure out how we can defray those costs. Okay, I originally on the agenda was asked to talk about Bill 50, the parades bill, which I'll get to in a minute, but I do want to address a couple other things. I want to encourage you folks, check out our website at honolulucitycouncil.org, honolulucitycouncil.org. And if you do that, you can subscribe to email notifications of things that the council is doing. Yeah, it's on right on the front page of our website. You scroll down to subscribe to email notifications. If you do that, we send you an email and tell you what the committee hearings are. So I'm happy to report that this Thursday, the Transportation Committee is going to be hearing Bill 61 that's dealing with wheelies. So we are thinking about this and we're going to have a hearing. And you folks are welcome to participate and testify on that. I know my staff, I want to introduce to you Kevin Imanape, he's my new chief of staff. And if I'm not available for whatever reason, feel free to call Kevin. And of course, a lot of you know Amanda Morales, who is online, and she was placing in the chat some of the things that we're doing. We did request Department of Transportation Services to look at the traffic impacts of the Beaky Bike Station. We did request DDC to investigate the drainage problems on Keone Anna Street. And I personally went down there and looked at it, and you're right. When I went down there, it was last rain, and there was a puddle there that probably been there for 6 months. This is just ridiculous. Chickens. I know there was talk about that. So right now, the city spends through the Department of Customer Services $76 per chicken, which is just nuts to me. If we could take some of that money and give it to Roger Babcock, we might not have as much of a problem. But so we probably allocate about $50,000 a year for chickens. But it's interesting because you cannot just exterminate them. People got really upset when we suggested that idea. So then we came up with an idea of, the feed that you feed them have birth control in that. And guess what? The chicken advocates, and I didn't even know there were chicken advocates, the people advocating for the chickens were against that, which is kind of crazy to me. So right now, we have what's called a pound master position in the city government. But if you read the definition of the pound master, it's not what you think. It's not the dog catcher. They deal with cattle. And we don't really have a problem with cattle here on Oahu. So I'm suggesting an amendment that the pound master take care of chickens, and we have a feral cat problem in the city as well. So trying to solve that problem. There was a complaint about 159 Kailani Avenue and all the graffiti. So it took us a little while, but we tracked down the owner. They live in Washington State. And we asked them, hey, you gotta fix your building, or at least paint the graffiti. And they said, okay, we'll try to do that. They came back to us and said, we don't have the money. So the WBID, we put them into contact with each other, and the WBID offered to do it and pay for it themselves. And they declined that offer, which is just crazy. So one of the things I wanted to talk about or ask you folks to consider, and we don't need to do it tonight, but you know what we did with 1650 in Alawai, right? We condemned it. And that's kind of a drastic thing to do. But at some point, we might want to consider condemning that building if the owners aren't going to take responsibility. And it's really, really bad, right? You folks have to look at it every day. But I'm open to that if you folks want to do that. We have success with 1615, and I think we have some presentation on that tonight. But it's taking private property. But I don't think the city, we want that to own that. We would then sell it to Outrigger or some other hotel to buy it and take care of it, perhaps condemn it or refurbish it. But, again, that's something to consider. Tim Gary, I wasn't told about the Honu project right out here at the Alawai Golf Course either. And I feel your pain. And I asked Kevin, hey, Kevin, did you hear about this? He goes, no. So, I'll look into that because they should have at least come here to talk to this board and get input on that. I know they believe that under federal lawsuit, before they can send someone over to housing, or before we can do what they call enforcements, another way of talking about it is a sweep. This lawsuit, federal lawsuit, says that a judgment that you have to provide shelter before you can do the sweep. So that's the excuse that they're using. I know you're nodding no, but that's no excuse for not telling this community that they wanted to do this. Back when they were even considering doing Honus, I had suggested Diamond Head Crater, right? Out of the way, but apparently they didn't take my suggestion. But I'll follow up with Director Crucky to see what we can do and perhaps have them come out here next month. The Ka'iolani businesses, if they're still here, they're affected by the smoke coming off of the restaurant. If they'll contact my office, and we already took down the notes, maybe we can get DPP to come out there and do an investigation, as well as the Department of Health. Okay, Bill 50. Can I talk about Bill 50? We actually have a copy for the board. I think we got a couple extra copies for everybody else. And I got to tell you, thank you for those of you who come to testify at the council. So based on your request, I did not ask the chair of the Transportation Committee to put it on hearing this month so that we got a chance to further discuss this. But if we can figure out a resolution to this debate, it could be on the schedule for the Transportation Committee. It's the Planning, Infrastructure, and Transportation Committee, a newly created committee. I figured planning, infrastructure, and technology should be together. Transportation should be together. But a couple of things I want to point out that is of particular interest. Whenever you read a bill, if it's underlined, that means there's new language. If the line goes through the words, that means it's deleted language. And this bill is kind of complicated because we changed it around to make it as easy to understand as possible by moving the definitions up front and clearing that. And you can read those definitions, but turn to page 7, at the top of page 7, Waikiki Street Festivals. And this was the main part of this bill, right? This is what the community asked me to look into. And this paragraph 3 addresses that. For street festivals in Waikiki Special District, including Waikiki Legacy Street Festivals, the director may approve a maximum of 2 permits per triennial period, which is a 4-month period of the calendar year, based on the date of the street festival to be held. Yeah. So it's like a trimester. You divide the year into 3, which is a 4-month period. So only 2 per 4-month period, for a total of 6. Total of 6. That's what any feedback from you folks. You want more or you want less? Or is 6 okay? Right? Now, there already are 3 legacy street festivals. So a legacy street festival is a street festival that has been in existence continuously for 15 years. And we got 3 of them here in Waikiki. So that would mean you only get an additional 3 if it's limited to 6 per year, right? So some feedback on that would be helpful. I also want to point out though, First Amendment parades or activities, including street festivals, those are unlimited. The city cannot deny a First Amendment parade or street festival. Martin Luther King, which the chair mentioned earlier today, that is coming up this month. That, the Solidarity March for Peace, Family Day Parade, Honolulu Pride, those are just examples of First Amendment, right? You cannot deny First Amendments. Those are unlimited. Legacy parades. We currently have 11 legacy parades in Waikiki. Again, these cannot be denied, they're legacy. As I mentioned, 3 legacy street festivals. The mayor, by the way, gets 6 waivers under the bill. Excuse me, 4. I reduced his waivers from 6 down to 4. So no matter what the law says, the mayor can come in and almost like trumpet, right? If we say there's only 6 street festivals, the mayor could come in with one of his waivers and say, no, you can have 7, 8. He gets 4 of those, 4 of those waivers. But that's the gist of the bill, right? And again, I know there's a member who testified that says that, why am I springing on be on this now, but actually I look back at my notes. And I had this bill drafted back in September 26th of 2023. I sent it over to the Department of Transportation Services. They came up with their own draft, but we sent it to, and they sent it to Corporation Counsel, the attorneys for the city. They came up with their own draft. And those two drafts were completely different. My office, the Office of Council Services, came up with the original. And we tried to pair them all and try to figure out something that's gonna work. So what you stand before you there is something that the Transportation Committee voted to approve, but we didn't pass it out of committee because I wanted to bring it to you folks to peruse and discuss and give us feedback. But again, the gist of the bill is limiting the amount of street festivals and parades. Yeah. But anyway, that's my presentation, Chair. I'm open for questions.
Board members, with your permission, I would like to bring item 7A or 8A, discussion of Bill 50 for a vote while the chair is here to take our questions. Does anybody have an objection to doing that? You, so we would need a motion to do that. Yeah, go ahead.
One of my concerns is that this resolution wasn't available until just today. So,
No, it's been on the website since
well,
November
maybe not your
20
sorry.
2024. So
Allow me to clarify.
that's going on 3 months.
Sir, allow me to clarify. I apologize. Just in our Google Drive, I didn't.
And in fact, you were there at the hearing.
Yes, sir, I have been at the hearings. Actually, I think almost all except for the one that was out of city. So we actually met with the Waikiki Business Improvement Association with Trevor and talked through this bill because as it currently stands, there are a few issues with it still. I would actually like to see parades and street festivals go down, but the major concern, sir, is that there are some things that have been added since the last time that you had your from the last meeting, the city and council meeting. And I just wish there's more time to review it.
Actually, again, if you go on the website and our website, HawaiiCityCouncil.org, you go to find legislation, click on that, click on Bill 50, 2024, and you can look at all what I introduced initially and all the proposed drafts. TW, Tommy Waters, draft 3 is what was passed out of committee in November. So that's what you're looking at. And by the way, I got another letter from the Department of Transportation. They want to make even more changes to it, but they seem pretty small.
I'll take Greg, followed by Catherine.
Thank you, Chair. So if this is the original version, it hasn't been changed since,
So that's not the original.
not original,
That's
but,
the version that was passed out of the Transportation Committee in November.
okay, that's what I understood. The concern I have also is that I was looking for this on our Google Share Drive today. And per the notice of our meeting, it also mentioned that it would be available on, actually, if I can give you the exact words, if I, a moment. I think it was in bold. We can go to your section. I apologize. Here we go. Bill information on meeting materials website. Neighbors and board members to discuss on Bill 50. So I actually didn't see much of anything on our shared drive today. So to be quite frank, there were only 3 things there. One was HFD, one was the resolution that I'm going to be proposing this evening for illegal fireworks, and there was the mayor's report. So there were only 3 things in the board packet, which we call the board packet technically, the Google Share Drive and for the public. So I have the same concern. I really wanted to spend some time on this, and I didn't know if it had been changed. So I couldn't go back and look at what was at the committee meeting then and know what was changed or different. And a couple of us did meet with Trevor and we had some great ideas, and there was one of the members of the public involved, Tim Gary. And so we'd like to be able to discuss that also, but actually discuss it with you, with committee at some point, or come to your office. And I just think it's too soon to just take a vote because I haven't had a chance to review this.
Well, Trevor Arbuzaro met with you, and he actually sent me an email about your 3 suggestions, which I'm happy to address now. But the fact of the matter is, this has been on our website since November, and I believe a few of you were actually at the hearing. But one of the requests was require the street festivals not to start street closures at Lure Street, but that they start the street closure at the police station down to Kapalulu Avenue, which I think is a reasonable request. That way it doesn't affect as many businesses if it were to start there. So what I'm suggesting is we work with Department of Transportation to put that in their rules rather than in the bill itself. And I don't think they'd have a problem with that. The second thing that was discussed in the meeting with the Waikiki bid is require the street festival organizers to contract with HPD overtime officers for traffic control along Kalakaua to speed up traffic flow. So my understanding is for the First Amendment street festivals, the city will incur that cost. But if it's a for-profit, or even if it's a nonprofit, they're required to pay for that themselves. And in fact, within this bill, on Bill 8, it says review of street activity permit application by chief of police upon the filing of application for a non-First Amendment street activity. The director shall transmit a copy of the application for review to the chief of police and at the director's discretion to any other agency that the agency's review is desirable and necessary. Also, the director may impose later on page 8, the director may impose conditions on the issuance of a street activity permit that are reasonable and necessary to address the public safety, minimize traffic congestion or hazards, and allow the passage of authorized emergency vehicles. Any street activity permit conditions imposed by the director must be included in the street activity permit. So I think we can take care of that also, the second requirement, by just working with the director. And by the way, he was the one who started this. A lot of people think it was Rick Hagan. It was actually the director of the Department of Transportation Services because they were getting overwhelmed by the amount of applications for these permits. And by the way, these things make money, right? I've heard even in the parades, they'll charge the parade participants like $1 amount per person. So if a marching band of 50 people, they'll like charge them $10 a piece to march in their parade. Now, one more, I got a couple more things. The part of your meeting was requiring alcohol be kept in a beer garden rather than allowed on the street. So that was initially in the bill. The folks from Chinatown got really upset about that. They didn't want a beer garden because the businesses actually in Chinatown benefit from people going in and out of their bars. So, and the then chair of the transportation committee represented Chinatown. So to keep the bill moving and rolling, they took it out, I believe. But the good news is the liquor commission, in giving the liquor permit, can require a beer garden. Yeah. And then the last one recommended by you folks was re-add the provision about the applicant must donate 50% of the net profits generated by the street activity to the Waikiki Business Improvement District, which, by the way, I just thought of that, you know, because they do such good work. Give them a little bit of money, especially the ambassadors and others. But members of the committee didn't like that idea. especially, and then you had people coming from the Chinatown area, it's like, well, why are we gonna give money to Waikiki when we're having ours there? So again, to keep the bill moving, we took that part out. Just wanted to explain it. But if you guys want me to put it off for another month, I can, but just keep in mind that.
Chair,
One last comment, that this would take effect, because this year's too late, right? They start from January and they issue the permits for this year. This bill would have to take effect January 2026.
one thing I would like to correct, something you said that they would start at the police station in Kapahulu. I think you meant fire department.
Pardon?
I think you meant the fire department. There's no police station on Kapahulu.
Oh, I'm sorry. Did I say Kapahulu? I meant the Kalakaua.
Okay.
Kalakaua.
Right.
Sorry.
Chair Finley, I'd like to move that we move the agenda item 7A up for a vote. This has been discussed and rediscussed and over-discussed for years. So I'd like to move that agenda item up for a vote.
Is there a second? There's a second.
Second.
And a third. Further discussion?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I said my piece in November, so I don't necessarily have to repeat it all, but it has been a couple of months. So my opposition continues to be two things. There's a few things I like, and I appreciate the work that's gone in there. Beer garden sounds like a nice idea. Moving it down to the police station sounds like a nice idea. But I think that the whole premise of the bill is a faulty one, and I continue to believe that this is nothing but a charade to protect the business community. Chair himself said, well, let's do this to protect the business community. This is Rick Eggers' bill. This is the Waikiki Improvement Association that's been trying to squeeze out the street festivals for a long period of time because they want people eating $100 steaks, buying $1,000 handbags. They don't want people on the street at food trucks or watching vendors or local crafts or things like that. And what I object to is using the residents of Waikiki as kind of the front for this, that, oh, the poor residents, everybody hates it, it's such a big problem. The truth is, and I know Catherine doesn't like it, I know the chair doesn't like it, and this is something that a lot of us, we're all reasonable people, we may disagree about that, and that's fine, but also some of us like it. I like it. I know I had a nice chat with Stephanie after the last meeting. I see Denise down there. I think for every resident who doesn't like it, there's someone who does. And I just don't like the idea that the residents are basically being used as an excuse for what basically is nothing more than a bill to protect the big business interests. And it's not that I don't care about the business community, but our job is to represent the residents. And I think a lot of residents like it. And so I don't see any reason to reduce the number of street festivals over what is allowed in current law. I think if the number was kept at the same with some of those other kinds of caveats and restrictions, I think it would be different. But I'm going to vote no on the current proposal.
Actually, the motion on the floor is to bring forward the item off of the agenda and move it forward. So is there any further discussion on bringing the item forward? That's what she wants. Yeah.
So, yeah,
So is there any discussion on bringing the item forward? Yes.
yes. The reason I don't believe we can vote on this evening is what I was alluding to earlier. This was not in the meeting materials. It was not on the shared Google Drive for the public. And Lou made a very compelling comment about that too. We're here for the public. We're not here for, we respect the Chair Waters and the council, but we're here for the public's input. And to move something up to vote, we can't vote on this tonight respectfully because the public has a right to read this. I have a right to read this as a board member, and I haven't had an opportunity. I did provide some input that was positive to the Chair Waters mentioned this evening with Member Worth. So we're trying to do good things, for our community, but the community that's sitting here And other community members that may have come and didn't see this and know what was going on, they have an they need to have an opportunity to review this. And I suggest that we defer to the next board meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion on bringing the motion or bringing the item forward? I'll call for a vote on that since there's no further discussion.
Okay, when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Jillian Anderson. Robert Boya. Michael, Lisa Cabanero. Shotaro Dabbs. Easily Stephanie. Stephanie Easily, sorry. Louis Erdechek. Okay. Melissa Feller. Robert Finley. Catherine Hensky. Daniel Jacobs. Ken Jacob. Okay. Jeff Mers. Greg Misakian.
No.
No. Howard Marr. Chad Snatter.
No.
Okay, no. Yep. Okay, and Sarah Worth. Okay. That's 11 yes, 5 no. This does not move. This has to be, in order to move an item to change the agenda, you have to have 2/3 vote. Oh yeah, it's still going to be on the agenda. It's just we can't move it to right now. We're doing it later.
Further discussion on Bill 50. Audience members, any thoughts on this? Board members, any thoughts on Bill 50? Go ahead.
Sorry, sir. I've actually done a lot of research on this bill, and one of the biggest issues is, I don't think people realize this, when they have parades, they are making like $500,000 off of us. So I actually have an email where the gentleman is telling them, you cannot participate in this parade unless you go through my travel agency. So all these parades, not all of them, but a number of them are making money off of us, off of the Waikiki, off of our like inconvenience, off of our streets being blocked, off of. So, and the problem is we're not
Chair.
seeing.
I have a point of order.
I'm sorry?
I have a point of order.
Go with your point of order.
We just voted not to discuss this anymore until the appropriate time on the agenda. So I'm not sure why we're continuing to discuss it until it's on the
I thought
agenda.
we had 11 votes to discuss it now. That was the motion.
He said it failed. I kind of disagree with his ruling. I think it requires 2/3 to add something to the agenda, not take something out of order, but.
Oh no, that's regarding the vote.
That's fine. I can wait. You just asked for more input, so I can wait.
Okay. We are, according to the city, good to bring this forward. Further discussion on Bill 50. Further discussion on Bill 50. Yes, I'll take Catherine.
Chair, point of order, if we're going to, if I could, Chair, if we're going to continue, she should be allowed to continue because she was interrupted.
Allow her to continue. I thought she was finished.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry about that confusion. So my concern, I brought this up numerous times, is the fact that we need to decrease the number of parades too. We still have, how many events, street closures do we have a year still? It's like 37 or something. So it's more than 2 a month. And
There were 38.
so, yeah. So now we're down to, was it 27? Is that, or?
If Bill 50 passes, it'll be reduced down to 27.
Joint, exactly. So it's still more than 2 per month we're having street closures. So I would like to see, first of all, I would like to see more, like actually have this bill be more stringent, but also reflecting off of parades. Because the fact that these mainland companies are making that much money off of our inconvenience and they're not paying income tax, they're not paying any of the taxes that we normally receive. They were a local company. That needs to be addressed. And I am very concerned that, I mean, you added a whole bunch, shucks, about the waivers for the mayor now. I mean, he can now have
Or reduced from 6.
I understand it's been reduced, sir, but just the parameters, he has more leverage, and the fact that the director too has more discretion too. They're not being very clear about the parameters of it. I just find that concerning.
By the way, so there's 11 legacy parades. Remember, these are the parades that have been there for 15 years. We're not touching those. And if that's the will of this body to suggest that, I definitely look at that. Non-legacy parades, if the bill passes, you'd only have an additional six on top of the 11 that are legacy. Because personally, I didn't get much complaints about bike rides. Remember the previous mayor shut down Kalakaua during COVID so people could ride their skateboards. We didn't get, in fact, people love that. You know, I'd hate to reduce those types of events. But again, I'm here to listen to you folks. You want to increase the amount of parades, to increase the amount of legacies. What the bill does, it does limit them. It limits them. 6 street festivals. And yeah, that's basically what it does.
Catherine?
I think what you and the city council have tried to accomplish is what the public in Waikiki and Chinatown have discussed for years. There have been complaints because there was a single gentleman, we all know who he is, who somehow got more than his fair share, and to this date has not reported a single donation to any organization in this state. I don't know how he gets away with it, but I think the intent of your bill is to answer the plague of parades that has bothered Waikiki for years. And Lou, it's not a matter of private businesses benefiting from it. If it were being held in Chinatown, the private businesses would benefit from it also. It's a matter of being reasonable and respecting the fact that those of us who choose to live in Waikiki are well aware of the commercial activities, but that doesn't mean that we want to have our streets blocked every single weekend. And you add to, for instance, just a simple little matter of some beaky bikes being put on Kapahulu Avenue, limiting access to Waikiki and egress to Waikiki or Kuhio. I think what we need to do is just consider the fact, instead of trying to beat this horse, is to consider that your attempts are to make it more equitable and fairer for the residents of Waikiki. So I think that we are representing our constituents. I really do. And however this board votes, that's their choice. I, for one, as you know, Lou, will vote for Bill 50. I think it's a good start. I don't think it's the answer to all the problems, but it's a good start.
Go ahead,
Tommy, you mentioned the First Amendment. How does the First Amendment apply to Kalakaua? I mean, there are other places to have parades and events, but these are all down Alamoana and Kalakaua. And just personally, I have a doctor's appointment on the 20th. I can't get there. The street's going to be closed. have to walk there. And I don't feel like that. But I just don't see how the First Amendment comes into play here. I mean, you can regulate speech in time, place, and manner. And another place would probably be more acceptable to people who are tired of the streets being closed and get where they want to go.
A good point. So how it works is that an applicant would apply to the Department of Transportation Services. And then it's actually pointed out in the bill. And then they'd actually, I'd imagine, check off a box that we're claiming this to be a First Amendment right of freedom of speech. And then they consider whether or not it is a First Amendment or not. Because if it's not, the director at his discretion can deny it. And then has the ability to appeal it as well, which is set out in the bill too. But yeah, I think the city's taking the position that if it's a First Amendment, freedom of speech, right, they're not going to deny it.
Even if it is First Amendment right, it doesn't have to be down Kalakaba. They can change the time, the place, and the manner to express political speech or whatever speech they want. And, you know, my problem with these things is they're down Kalakala. And you can't get where you're going because somebody else is making money off it. And, you know, I think that affects the lives of the residents who live along those streets.
Part of the impetus of Department of Transportation Services to support this bill is they want to encourage applicants to go outside of Waikiki. We want to encourage people to do this in Kapolei, to do it in Kaimuki, to do it in Chinatown. That's part of the reason why they wanted to limit them here. But as far as First Amendment, I look at, we have 4 of them here in Waikiki. As I mentioned, Martin Luther King, Solidarity March for Peace, Family Day Parade, and Honolulu Pride. It's not, the First Amendment, I don't think is really causing that much. Well, I certainly haven't gotten any complaints about the 4 until now.
Comment for me, as a longtime Waikiki resident, my support for this bill is traffic. Where on multiple times a month, I can't get out of my drive and go someplace. It's just blocked up. Kohio Avenue becomes a mess. I see people trying to cross the street and they have to wait multiple cycles to do that. I've seen an ADA person in a wheelchair wheel out into the street because he's so frustrated waiting. So that normally doesn't happen with parades, bike rides, Merry Mile runs. It happens with street events for an extended number of hours from 2 p.m. until midnight. Your average other event is probably no more than 3 hours. So I am in support of this. I was in support of this when the board voted during Mayor Harris's term to reduce it from 60 down to what it is today. So I argued at that time the number should have been less. But that's my test. Anybody else has discussion on this? Do I have a motion to support Bill 50 as revised? I have a motion.
I move that we support Bill 50 as written.
Do I have a second? Do I have a second? Any further discussion? We've heard Lou's discussion. Yeah. So any further discussion? Seeing no further discussion, we'll have a vote.
Okay, so this motion is to support Bill 50? Okay. When I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Jillian Anderson?
Point of order, Chair. I'm sorry to do it so late. I just thought of it. Did anyone ask the public for any input?
I looked in the audience, no one had a hands up.
Did you ask?
Tim, Tim.
Did you ask?
Don't
Thank
wave
you.
it. Okay, Tim, let's have your testimony.
I think you all know where I stand on this. I've been advocating for this for a year and a half. I'm frustrated at Bill Santos TAM. We're not moving. Instead of moving on this, he went to the Democratic National Convention and he didn't show up for 5 committees last year. So anyway, I had a question. Are we going to be able to ask Chair Waters? I had another very important thing I wanted to ask him after this.
After this, certainly. Anybody else in the audience has a comment? Anybody else? Buddy online? Nobody online? No comments. We'll take the vote and get it done.
Okay, when I call your name, please say yes, no, or abstain. Jillian Anderson? Robert Boyack? Lisa Cabanero? Shotaro Dabbs? Stephanie Easley? Okay. Louis Burchett? Okay. Melissa Fellick? Okay. Robert Finley? Catherine Hensky? Daniel Jacob? Ken Jacob? No. Okay. Oh, wait, did you say no or yes? Okay. Jeff Mers? Greg Masakian?
No.
Okay. Mark Howard, sorry. Okay. Chad Snyder?
No.
Okay. Sarah Worth? Okay. That's 10 yes and 6 no. The motion passes.
Okay, thank you, everybody. Chair Waters, I think you have another question. Go ahead, Tim.
Thanks, Bob. Chair Waters, I'd like to propose with the new city council in effect that instead of having 1 meeting a month, you up it to 2 meetings a month. You saw the fiasco last month. Started at 10 o'clock, it ended at 9:15 at night. I spent 7 hours as city council, came home and watched it till 9 o'clock. Either our agenda problems or my solution, since you guys get paid so much, let's have 2 meetings a month. Here's my other contention. Property assessment bills were mailed out last month. I want to keep everybody in Hawaii. Okay, rates going up. Homeowners insurance gone up. Hurricane insurance went from 1,700 last year, 3,700 this year. Car registration went up. My property assessment went up 8.47. I followed last year when we gave seniors an exemption of $160,000. The city didn't want to raise the rate on property taxes, but they got around that. They just jacked up your assessment. My $160,000 exemption got wiped out with this notice, complete notice. You always claim you want to keep people in Hawaii. Got my Social Security today. Whoa, that went up 2.5%. Not quite as much as your assessment. Understand it's not the city council that does the assessment, but the administration. Everything you guys did last year got wiped out with one letter. How do you expect people to stay in Hawaii? Water rates up, homeowners insurance up, hurricane insurance up, car registration up, property tax rates go up. We're losing, especially senior citizens. I talked to Vice Chair Wire, the new one. He proposed last year that seniors get a $450,000 exemption. You guys need to go to your meeting this month and correct this. This is obscene. Thanks, Chair.
I appreciate you. In fact, I'm open to 2 meetings per month. We were there from 8:30 that day, actually, till 9:30 at night. But as far as property taxes, I feel your pain. I'm a homeowner myself. And I used to, and I still do, dog the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services because I've tried to hold their feet to the fire. How do they conduct their assessments, right? They say it's based on the values of your neighbors' homes and recent sales. And I'm trying to get them to be more transparent because people can appeal it, by the way. And I hope they do, you do. But if they don't give you the comparable prices, you don't have the information that you need to do the appeal. So I'm trying to get them to include that in the notice of assessment. So that they have at least a basis for it. I've done it a few times, brought them before the budget committee and have them explain their process. And I'll do it again this year. Because you're right, we did increase the homeowner's exemption for everybody, but especially for senior citizens. And if your property taxes went up because the value of your property went up, we haven't touched the rate at all, right? We, in fact, we looked at lowering it for residential land. You know, part of what we need to do, we have a $3.4 billion budget, but we only generate about $1.7 billion in revenue from property taxes. And honestly, I'm not sure how, well, I do know how they do it. They carry over a balance every year. A lot of it's from vacant positions and whatnot. But the fact of the matter is, the city relies on property taxes to pay its bills. And what I wanted to do is actually tax empty homes. People are coming from the outside, investing here in Hawaii, keeping the home or apartment vacant, because the property taxes on the municipality where they live is much more than it is here. It makes sense for them to do it, but take the profit and put that back into lowering everybody else's tax. Right? That's what I wanted to do. I couldn't get the votes this past December. I'm going to try again. But that's the idea, folks. We have to generate enough revenue for key city, police, fire, ambulance, roads. Want to make sure that's done. But why not get the person who's investing here from outside to help pay for that? Right. So,
Ma'am, did you have something further?
Chair Waters, I'm Catherine Lee, and you mentioned that there's $1 billion for improvements in Waikiki last time, and you were looking for some suggestions.
yeah.
Again, I'm just
Set you up.
yeah, you're welcome. The fountain in front of the firehouse, I'm still wondering, they just did a beautiful job on Kalakaua across from the Tropicana, I guess, right down there near Kaimana. Gorgeous. It looks so beautiful right now. We should do that. That fountain is a landmark. Should be restored and turned back on. Please consider it. Thank you.
Okay, no, thank you so much. And I've actually got a bunch of inquiries on that as well, on the fountain. Okay.
Chair, before, could I make a request for a point of clarification? What just happened a moment ago with the vote? Originally, Anson, you indicated that it needed a 2/3 vote, and then I saw you go outside and make a call, so I don't know what changed. Could you clarify where that went from majority to 2/3? Because from what I understand in Robert's rules, the 2/3 requirement is there to move up an agenda item.
I was just told to, it's your guys' board. Like, and I have no opinion on it.
Okay,
So-
is there a section in the neighborhood plan that you can cite where you are citing something?
That's what they just told me.
Okay, because I think I'm sorry to go back to this now, but I think I was very clear earlier that it wasn't in
Oh,
the
yeah.
board packet. The public didn't have a right to review. I didn't have a right to review. And I thought maybe you had gone out and got clarification. So now I'm researching a little bit and I'm not seeing it in the neighborhood plan and I'm aware that Robert's rule states that.
Yeah, I asked them about that and they just told me just let it happen.
You ask who? Who's them?
Dylan Wetzel.
Okay.
Said it to,
So I'm going to raise a point of order that last vote is invalid and we will address that later. Thank you.
It was already on the agenda. So my understanding is that if you want to add it to the agenda, you need to, all we did was take it out of order. This was not that big a deal.
Taking it out of order, Lou, Member Erdősek, requires that you have a 2/3 vote to move it out of order. What if someone wants to come at a certain point in the meeting and have a discussion on that and they know it's going to be later in the meeting? We've got other representatives that haven't spoken yet.
The meeting is almost over.
Yeah. So
We got presentation.
that's
Thank
fine.
you.
We'll address it. Thank you.
Senator Moriwaki, are you here? Senator Moriwaki, are you here? Representative Tan, are you here? And I'm going to apologize to the rest of the presenters tonight. We have to leave this building at 9 o'clock. So after these presentations are done, we'll have to shut down our meeting and move your items to the next agenda. I'm truly sorry we did get there. Thank you.
Aloha and Happy New Year. I'm Sharon Moriwaki, your senator, and this is.
Hi, I'm Representative Adrian Tam, your state rep.
We're going to do this duo because it's so late. Everybody, we appreciate your sticking around for this late hour. I have my report, and so does Adrian. Basically, I sit in the Ways and Means, and Adrian sits on Finance committees, the money committees. Oh, not fine. Okay. So I sit on the Ways and Means Committee, and for the last 2 weeks, and today and through next week, the Ways and Means Committee has been meeting like from morning to late afternoon on every department's budget. So we're going through the budget. Tomorrow is the opening of the legislature. We will be seeing everybody opening, and then the bills that are coming in will be introduced. And so the whole process begins. I do want to thank the Permitted Interaction Group, Ken Jacobs, Jillian Anderson, and Lou, who came to meet with Adrian and me and gave us some of the proposals on noise, on noisy vehicles, mufflers, and we have put in those bills. We're introducing those bills as well as other bills on noise, on crime, on a number of other areas, condo bills. They're all being circulated now in both the House and the Senate. And we will be seeing those bills come up and we will come and report to you. And I know that your legislative team will be advising you on them as well. It's a fast-paced session. And I do want to say that we've based it on, well, those of you who responded to my survey, some of the bills were based on those issues that you brought forward. I do want to just report on a couple of things. We have been working on the Waikiki Beach restoration for a while now and trying to get the property owners to look at the beach. There's a crumbling wall, so you'll see in my report, crumbling wall. We're trying to address that. And also the Waikiki, the Alawai Canal, the debris that flows from upstream into the canal and the harbor and the ocean. One of the bills that we're working on is with the University of Hawaii College of Engineering and the Department of Land and Natural Resources to find some other technologies, maybe upstream capturing of the debris rather than having it flow out into the harbor. So these are some of the areas that we're working on. And Adrian and I are working closely together on making sure that we make Waikiki a destination for people to enjoy and have it much more aesthetic from what the state can do in terms of funding of some of these projects. And so Adrian, you can.
Thank you. As mentioned, we did meet with the Permanent Interaction Group, and we've had a very long and very substantive discussion about the bills that many of you care about, all of you care about. As Senator said, we are working on a bill for noisy mufflers. We are also working on a bill about crimes against senior citizens, as well as condo bills. And we're and a bill for electric garbage trucks is one of them too. And as mentioned, opening day is tomorrow, and we invite you to come to the Capitol and meet us and to talk to us and to meet our staff. I also had the opportunity to tour the convention center. The convention center will be closed January 2026 to October for major renovations and repairs over the roof. And it's not just the top of the roof, it is actually the bottom of the roof. We actually saw it and it's pretty bad. But that's happening. I'm assuming my new role in the House as chair of the House Tourism Committee. So I look forward to working. I've been working on the HTA's budget as well as meeting and working with the various stakeholders to see where we can find some collaboration to support our largest economy. That's my report.
I guess we can ask you, will you guys support the sewer system? Fund that? It's the sewer that we're charging all this extra money for. Okay, no state employees can use the sewer system.
No, it's the issue.
I know, and we're out of time. I'm sorry.
Jurisdictions.
Hi, I'm Shelley Oates Wilding, and I was going to be presenting tonight, but wasn't able to because of time. But I just wanted to ask one question, Senator. Would it be possible for you to come again next meeting, if that would be great? Because my proposal is within the area that you were discussing, so I'd love to.
To us,
Yes.
now. So.
Yeah, for sure. I'd love to. That'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, switching the meeting is adjourned. Please help us put away the tables and chairs. Thank you.